Tonight we're going to be talking about a film called Youth, and I thought we'd start out by talking about your youth, because it definitely was not inevitable that a kid from Elephant and Castle, this poor neighborhood in London, was going to become Michael Caine. In fact, he wasn't even named Michael Caine at that point.
No, I wasn't. No. The way I got my name was I was a repertory actor in the country, you know, and I didn't belong to Equity, the trade union. And I came to London and I had an agent, and I didn't have a telephone, and so I used to, in Leicester Square, there was a telephone which is like sort of Times Square here, you know. And every evening on weekdays I used to phone my agent saying, "Have you got a job for me?" And one night I phoned, she said, "I've got a job." She said, "But my real name is Michael White, and I called myself Michael White, you know, so that's fine." And she said, "I've got a job," she said, "but you've got to belong to Equity, and you can't be called Michael White because there's already an actor called Michael White in Equity." She said, you can call yourself Michael, but you can't call yourself White, and I need a name now. Think of a name." And I was in Leicester Square, which is like Broadway with all cinemas. And my favorite actor is Humphrey Bogart at that time. And I looked round, and it said Humphrey Bogart in the Caine Mutiny. So I said, "That's a good name." So I said, "You know, call me Caine, Michael Caine." She said, "How do you spell it?" I said, C-A-I-N-E. But it was a good job it wasn't the next theatre, because I'd have been called Michael 101 Dalmatians.
Tell us a little bit about your character, Fred.
Fred is a composer and conductor who's, as he said there, he's done these songs, but the mystery of the whole film is the wife, so I can't explain that, you know? But he's on holiday in Switzerland with his best friend, who's a movie producer, who's played by Harvey Keitel, and then it's a sort of fantasy world that he lives in. And you've seen that. That's very sort of serious and quite miserable, you know. But the film is very bright. There's loads of music. It's very funny.
This beautiful location.
And the locations, and it's Paolo, you know, Sorrentino. It's just so clever with what he does, you know. But for me, it was a wonderful part. And what I didn't understand was, is Paolo said he'd written it for me. Mm-hmm. And I thought, he'd written it for me. And he's such a great director, because I'd seen all his other stuff. I didn't even know if he knew who I was, let alone he wrote a picture. So I did it, and I had the best time from an artistic point of view of working. I'm really very, very proud of this movie. It's among the best work that I ever did.
There's lots of talk in the film about seeing the future and looking back at the past, and how we're all sort of caught between the two. There's a lovely moment where Harvey Keitel flips around a telescope.
It's a wonderful moment. Yeah. Harvey, talking to a young man, he said, "Look at that." He said, and he looks through through the telescope. He said, "That's the future," and he can see all these big things. He turns the telescope round, he looks, and everything is gone. He said, "That's the past." Yeah. I thought it was a great simile for future and past. And it's very difficult to explain this movie because it's on such a high intellectual plane and so clever, because he is clever, you know. I mean, Paolo, he writes it as well. And I was sometimes puzzled.
Deeply emotional. I mean, there were tears in our screening room the other day.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we showed it in Caine, and we got 17.5 minute standing ovation, which, by the way, is very difficult, because you don't know what to do. You're standing there, you go, and you think, you say, "Oh, we go," and they'll stop, and they didn't stop. So you go to sit down, and say, "You can't sit down, they're clapping." And so you're standing there, and we stood there for 17.5 minutes. And I became fascinated by about 20 people who were booing. So I thought, well, we're not a complete success then.
that list of film credits that come before the ones that we all know and that were famous, and their credits
There's 27 movies I think I did where I played the butler. You know, came in and said dinner. It was obviously, you know, a test for Batman. But all I ever said was dinner is served, you know. Would you like a beverage with that? or I'd be the policeman who came in and arrested the villain at the end.
And then it all starts to happen, right? Zulu, Ipcris Files, Shirley MacLaine sees you in Ipcris.
Yeah, she brought me to Hollywood. And I came to Hollywood and I was there 2 weeks before she got there because she was making another movie. And so I didn't get my sort of party to introduce me to everyone. So I stayed in the Beverly Hills Hotel in a great big luxury suite all on my own. And no one ever talked to me or anything. And no one called me, nothing happened. So I used to go down into the lobby and see if I could see any film stars. And I sat in the lobby and John Wayne came in. And I thought, oh, John Wayne, and he had the hat and everything. He got off a helicopter straight out of the desert. He was covered in dust and everything. He was checking in at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And he looked over, he saw me, he said, what's your name, kid? I said, Michael Caine. He said, you're in that movie called Alfie? I said, yeah. He said, you're going to be a big star, kid. So I said, thank you, Mr. Wayne. And he said, let me give you some advice. He said, talk low, don't talk slow, and don't say too much. And never wear suede shoes. I said, what? Why never wear suede shoes? He says, because as I said, he said, you're going to be very famous. He said, and you'll be going in the toilet and taking a pee. There'll be a guy next to you, and he's going to say, Michael Caine. And he's going to pee all over your shoes.
Let's talk about the accent. The internet is filled with tributes to the Michael Caine voice. I just showed you the
my
stickers
voice.
around you.
And you go, I don't talk any different from anyone else, do I? And my wife always said, no, Michael, you don't. It's all right. It's okay. But somehow or other, I've got a different accent. But what I did is, the voice I've got was a voice that I did for America, because when Alfie came out, Alfie came out in England, was a big success, fine, and I was on making something else. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was making something else, and the director rang. He said, we want you to do 120 loops for Alfie. I said, what for? He said, the Americans have bought it, and they don't know what you're talking about. So if you see the American version of Alfie, it looks like I don't know how to do a Cockney accent.
When you talk about the kind of acting you wanted to do and working against the mainstream, being a working class guy trying to make it, it almost feels to me like Laurence Olivier is the definition of the kind of cinema you were pushing back against, and you two clash in that film.
I'll tell you a story about Larry. I was about 2 weeks before I made it. Laurence Olivier was Lord Olivier, right? So we're going to make this film together. There's only two of us in it, Sleuth, him and me. We'd never met, and about 2 weeks before the picture, I got a letter from him saying, it has occurred to me that you may be wondering how to address me. How to address me when we meet. He said, let me say this. From the moment we say hello, I am Larry, which I thought was great, and it got me off the hook on that. But I remade a Sleuth with Jude Law many years later. And I suddenly, and I was Sir Michael Caine, and he wasn't. And I suddenly thought it was supposing I sent Jude a letter saying, you may be wondering how to address me. And I would hate to think what Jude would have said.
Does it ever get competitive?
No. I have no sense of competition with other actors. My competition is with myself. All I'm ever doing is trying to be better than I was the last time. I mean, I admire other actors. I work with great actors. And I really love working with. It's a very funny thing. I can't work with bad actors. It really, because I'm looking at them and I always forget my lines. I go, you should have said that. You should have done that way. And I suddenly become interested in how bad they are. And I forget what I'm supposed to say. You know. So no, you must work with good people. Otherwise, you'll be crap.